Good day and good evening, and welcome to Dailies Hangout stream with me, Chaiji, but you can just call me Kai. Tonight, as is tradition with Dailies Hangout stream, although we don't do them that often, is I'll make my way through most of the daily roulettes. We skip MSQ roulette, guild tests, mentor and frontline, usually. And if we manage to do all of them, and there's quote-unquote still time, then we will actually also try to do a normal raid re-clear. But when I say quote-unquote enough time, it's a case of, well, sometimes I will, you know, choose to do them even though it technically goes over time, and other times we're actually done early. But we'll see. With that said, hey Ardell, hey Taliban, hey Shaq, hey Zipzap, hey Seras, hey Shorakai, hey Zav, hey Raging Bull, hey Tessie, hey Vince, hey me who else, hey Caetsu, hey Ilya, hey Tina Lee, hey Tabi, hey Nox, oh, and hey Gastel. Hope you're all doing very well. Nox says, did you trim your beard? I did not, but I did get a haircut. Well, technically I trim my beard every Tuesday, so yes and no. Probably not since last time you saw me. But I did get a haircut. Also, by the way, just want to hang on this one for a second. You seeing this? What is this? What is this? What is this? This lie? Hey Sky Shots, hope you're doing well as well. But yeah, the way that we will be doing the dailies is usually the way I do it. I'm explaining it so that anyone who's new to this or haven't been to one recently or whatever, I'll explain exactly how I do this. Is that when I'm about to do a roulette, I will step over somewhere where there aren't people in my garden here, and then I will say, if you want to join me for insert duty roulette here, then come on over to me. And then if you want to do that daily, you just come on over. If you don't want to do it, you just stay put. I will also try to not like grab someone who happens to be reasonably close to me, if that happens to be the case, without them moving. And if you run over to me early, I might not be sure if you actually want to join me, unless you like make it clear that you want to join, you know, like jumping in place, or you step away to come back to me. I will also try my best to not grab the same like 3 people every time. So if you already quote-unquote had a go, as it were, then without trying to like exclude you, I will probably try and remake a group with people I haven't had with me yet. And that of course also means that it is, you know, it's considerate to just like go, oh, duty done, bounce. And I won't be mad about it, whether you do or don't. But like basically most of the time, I'll probably remake the group for each duty. Except when we get to like the trials and normal raids and such, because a lot of the time there is like 8 people in my garden by the point we get to that point, so there isn't that much to like maybe I'll be like, oh, there's like 3 people that didn't have a go, can we have some shuffling? But that'll be that. Also, hey Sally, and thank you so much for the support, and welcome back to the Cult of the Pink. Thanks so much. Also, hey Bob and Agent Monica. And Fila, hope you're doing well. And yeah, we did just start. I haven't done any roulettes yet. Now, on my end, a pretty classic question that I get more and more recently is, shockingly, probably for the people that watch most of my streams, is, what job is your main? Which I suppose would be pretty obvious if you watch like the majority of the streams. Or if you talk with me like, on the Discord frequently, sometimes it'll be clear from, like, sometimes if there's something in, like, a video or something, it's like, I'll talk a little bit about this job, and then a little bit about this other job, and then we get to the Black Mage, and then I'm like, well, I actually have a lot to say about this! So, for the most part, I will probably be playing Black Mage. However, if we end up in a group where it's like, well, we need a tank or a healer, I will probably switch to that. But I will stay Black Mage for a bit to see if someone else will change. That is also usually how I do my dailies off stream most days. Is like I'll invite the usual suspects, and then we go through the duties, and if we reach a point where it's like, well, we need a tank, like we have 3 DPS, if no one else moves for long enough, I'll switch. Things like that. That is usually how I do it, or I try to. So that's how I'll do it tonight. Guy's main is Fisher. I mean, fishing can be fun sometimes. But yeah, a lot of the time people ask, I'm like, well, you can see me play my main on the Savage Raid streams, things like that. I have Dailies Hangout streams in the past where I played Black Mage. Actually, I believe the 2 most recent ones are me playing Black Mage for different reasons. But that's not very clear indication that I'm playing it because it's my main, right? Big explosion, small dragon. Yeah, pretty much. Now, with all of that out of the way, if you would like to join me for Expert Roulette, come on over to me. And thank you, Ardell. And write that down. Sometimes we'll have multiple groups, but I can't really control that. Yazel is making a second group. Over on the other end. The other small dragon in the other end. If you want to join there. What do we get? Underkeep or UA water? We get... Hey, I think I've gotten UA water like 5 days in a row, so that's kind of nice.
There are beasts ahead of you. They must have gotten in and
there are beasts. Ah, I'm stuck. Well, to be fair, Joe, in the last raid tier, I was maining warrior. Not to mention that a lot of the time, like I have my running jokes with, hey, did you know that warrior can solo things? So like that also makes sense. It's also not like an attack or something, or something negative that people ask. It's of course curiosity. It used to be the case that people frequently asked me what my favorite job was, or my favorite job in each role, or whatever it was. So it's basically the same question, right? It's just slightly adjusted. And it's really, you might not know. Like, it's like a question that, like, with someone who makes content on all jobs, it can be really difficult to know the answer to it without straight up asking. But I do play a ton of Black Mage. At least now. I also used to, here and there, in the past. It's just that it's become a lot more now that the job is a little bit easier.
I'm detecting something big. You'll have to deal with it to continue on.
Is there a need to transpose to ice between a pack of mobs when you have a flare star ready? If you're going from like AoE pull to AoE pull, then I don't know exactly what the most correct answer is. But yeah, if you're already in fire, you probably don't. The main reason that I would like start swapping is that by swapping around a little bit, you can like produce a paradox marker and also have a fire starter, for instance. Ah, man. What this particular fight always gets awkward is that I end up having to move my ley lines in the first set. And the cooldown of retrace is just long enough that if I actually do that, then I won't be able to retrace immediately in the second half. Almighty racket. Torkai says it seems pretty overwhelming. It's not that bad. It's just there's a lot of things you can do. My suggestion would be, if you think it looks like fun, is try and learn the basic rotation, like the standard rotation and such. Do what seems intuitive at first. Some things will eventually appear a lot more intuitive to you than they might have been. Like, for instance, the AF1 F3P thing that people talk about. It's like, well, you're generating a fire starter proc, and it's not optimal. Like, it eventually you'll find that, like, wait, couldn't I use transpose here? Like, things like that. Like, there are specific things that you can simply learn to do because it kind of makes sense when you think about it. And eventually you'll become skilled enough at Black Mage that it seems logical to do those things, and then you'll start doing them. It's not that bad. But there is like this whole thing that some players have made Black Mage out to be a lot more complicated than it is for a long time. That it, like, even if it's not that bad, it'll still seem that bad. So I would say, if you think it looks like fun, give it a try.
Construction was apparently a constant battle against the rising water level. Even during the war, the people labored to maintain the castle.
Iridian, hope you're doing well. And yeah, mine too. Also, Joe, I hope you're doing well as well. Same to you, Squishy.
Preservation's terminal is in this place.
Yeah, it is also, to me, like when I'm doing dailies on other jobs, I'm immediately frequently reminded of how inflexible other jobs are, where somehow Black Mage is not. Like, notice that the cooldown of ley lines means that, like, I will use like ley lines on one of the AoE pulls. But sometimes when I have a really fast group, or like that there's not that much time between the AoE pulls and such, I will just, like, I'll just use 2 ley lines on the boss. And then it'll take so long to generate the next ley lines that I'll have 2 ley lines for the next boss. Uber Penguin says, first time in the stream, discovered your channel recently. Are the colored health bars in the base settings or a mod? I use 0 plugins, no mods. If there's something you see on my screen, in my game, you can do it. Because I do not use any plugins. I use an MMO mouse. But I don't use any plugins. I can show, if you remind me when we're not in a dungeon, Uber Penguin, then I'll show you. Oh, that's really convenient for me. Hey, Kakami, hope you're doing well. I also have a video on the topic of those kind of UI settings, and I actually cover exactly that. That is extremely convenient for me. Imagine having to move, right, guys? Oh boy. Hey, Boobamet. Hope you're doing well. There's a bunch of people in the chat that has shown you exactly where you need to look to find the setting, Uber Penguin. But again, if you would prefer that I show you, just let me know after the dungeon, and I'll show you. Uh-oh. Ah! It's a little hard for me sometimes to see which one is the end station on that sequence. To your question, Caetsu, it's basically the way we say it for the freeze section. You use freeze, and then like either that's when you reapply thunder if it's time to reapply thunder, or you use something like foul. If there's not that many mobs, or if you genuinely don't have anything else, you can also use paradox. It's not too bad. On the fire side, you can choose to send something if you want to, but you don't really have to. Like if you're low on blanks, as they're called, then just don't use anything. Like you just transpose after the flare star, and that's good enough. Oh boy, the mobs are too spaced out. I can't hit both of them. Hey Caitlin, nope, you're doing well. I'm glad to hear that, Squishy. Thank you so much. It's okay, Zaf. That pull is actually really hard to space the mobs just right. The Terror Knights just don't want to play ball. It can be done, but it's really hard. I was not like saying it as like, Zaf bad. I was saying it as like, well, I'm not seeing 2 damage numbers. Oh, very nice. The stun on the run amok. I'm not sure how that works. It feels like sometimes the stun on the run amok prevents it from doing that move, and other times it just doesn't. Hey, Dunker. Oh, you're doing well. I can show you after this dungeon, Dunker. I can just straight up show you what the daily rewards are. But don't get too excited. The daily rewards from Mentor Roulette giga suck. Like, they supremely mega suck. Hey, Luna. Nope, you're doing well.
This machine has long guarded these crumbling halls.
At least I have Mana Font. I can get my fire starter back.
How will you handle this? Let us introduce more weaponry.
I mean, go ahead and introduce some of weaponry in the lanes I'm not in. Do it. That didn't hit me. Oh, thanks. The Black Mages Guild appreciates you.
Let us see what this yields.
Oh, thanks.
Perhaps a new approach to assess your adaptability.
Perhaps a new approach. A new approach. A new approach. A new brooch. I have a feeling that this ley line is not going to go down well. Unless... Ah, fantastic!
Still alive. How unfortunate.
A little reminder that the line stacks are basically infinite range. Oh, they're extremely long range. Oh, but again. Just killed the boss. Well done. Hey, 11. Hope you're doing well. I understand that the other party was just on the way. The hardest part is remembering which element I'm meant to be in. Oh yeah, see, that's an interesting point, because a lot of players that are already experienced with Black Mage look at the Black Mage toolkit as if it's entirely obvious what you're supposed to be doing. When, like, yeah, it is if you know, right? That's usually the problem. That you don't know until you know. And once you know, it's not that bad. But you have to learn it first. That is also part of the reason why I'm pretty sure in my Black Mage guide that for AoE rotation I did introduce that you can do the intuitive thing using Fire 2 and Blizzard 2, but throughout the guide I put a lot more emphasis on the transpose flare stuff because the power difference is so staggering that, like, you should learn it. And the alternative intuitive rotation is pretty intuitive, so there's no need to talk that much about that. Thank you, Erdil. Let's see. I believe it is here that you apply it. Not necessarily, KKMui. I want to be clear that I actually use the default DPS color. For some people, it'll be problematic, but, you know, do what works for you. It's distinctly different red hues, but if you can't tell the difference, you can't tell the difference. Hey, Pixel! Hope you're doing well. And I hope you enjoy your leveling of Black Mage. And with that said, if you'd like to join me for level cap dungeons, come on over to me. I have Yves Dubilier here, and I have Shaq who's already been in one. If there's no one else that wanna go, then... I am on Louisoix Chaos. Let me just pin that. I pinned a comment with the location. We will run with this. Hey Alex, hope you're doing well. Yeah, I feel I mainly play as the Login when I have to. Not super great at it. To your question, Alex, I would say it noticeably changes, quote unquote, but it kind of depends on what you're doing. Because, like, it'll be a lot more like, if you like casual, you'll probably do a lot more, I can't send a ready check when someone is in combat with a striking dummy. If you're doing into more casual stuff, then you'll probably be doing daily roulettes, doing like side quests and such. If you're more into like challenges, then you'll probably be doing things like extremes, savage, all of that stuff. So noticeably changes. I would say the day the daily gameplay of Final Fantasy XIV is noticeably different at when you've completed the story. But exactly how it'll be different for you is hard to say. These are the daily rewards, Dunker. 30 of the farm balls, 10 of the weeklies, a little bit of cash. Like, basically, you'll probably be better served by just straight up doing an expert roulette, even without the daily. I mean, Alex, take your time. I'm just saying it'll feel different. That is also part of the reason why a lot of people are like, enjoy your journey. Because once it's over, and it's different. You'll have a different relationship with the game. Exactly as Kekamui says, shifts from having a goal set to having to make it yourself. Uh-oh. I'm taking damage. Good luck, Luna. I'm building a paradox marker. From nothing, I mold paradox markers. Yeah, those are my ley lines, buddy. I'm not moving from those. I'm a black mage, and these ley lines are mine. Yeah, Squishy says if 8.0 introduced two sub jobs per job, what would you like to see? Oh, that's really hard to say, Squish, and it's like there's too much to talk about. Like, what would a sub job entail? How much, like, would it change the job? Like, all of that stuff. There's quite a lot. So I don't know. I really don't know. MS power. Uh-oh. Guess who forgot to use Blizzard 3? It's me. Actually, it's Blizzard 4, but you know what I mean. Nope. I cast triple Xenoglossy. Oh, never mind. I only got to use 2. Eh. You see, that's the thing, Squishy, is that, like, that's probably what I would have ended up with as well. That's always what I ask when people are like, what kind of jobs would you like to see? I'll be like, I don't really care, but I'd like to see something that we don't have. What do we not have? A ranged tank. A proper melee healer. A more damage over time focused DPS of some sort. Like, that's what I will ask for. By the way, I'm being attacked by something. I'm being... Well, I'm no longer being hit. I was being stabbed by a horse. A green mage tank. You know, it's funny. For those that weren't there, or didn't care, there was a huge amount of expectation that Dawntrail would have had Green Mage. They expected Pictomancer to be Green Mage. Because the, I don't think it's like a slight detail to the story, really. Like, it could be anything, but, the, like, clover thing on Kryle's earring is extremely reminiscent of the job icon, quote-unquote, of Green Mage. Hey, William. Hope you're doing well. I will say real quick, and this one probably mostly also goes out to newer players. If you're hoping for new races, that's like for new playable races, that's probably not going to happen. We were basically told back when Viera and Hrothgar were at it that was it. That was it. So if you're holding on to hope that it's that'll be something one day, it won't. As ain't no pun. Hope you're doing well. Something like here, I believe. A really funny thing with this boss is that the teacup spins are like, there are totally, completely predictable configurations for the 2 first waves. After the second wave, it's still predictable, but there's like way more information to take in to determine what the correct answer is without, like, you know, just following the teacups with your eyes. But that is how I just take a quick glance and go, it's probably here. Actually, on that one, Luna, I'm like pretty sure that at one point they and they mentioned that chemist was a job that they had like tried to make, but one of the concerns was that it seemed a little too like it might be confused with alchemist, you know, the crafter. And I think there was also something about them having a little bit of trouble with getting the gameplay loop in order. Another one that that I've heard, which is one that I'm holding out hope for, is that they have said that they have tried to come up with a tank that uses 2 shields. I believe that what I heard back when that was talked about was that they didn't have any problems with the defensive cooldowns, but the attack rotation was what usually stumped them, which I find really... yeah, exactly, like 2 tower shields, for instance. A little, like maybe 2 gun shields, like, what's his face? Ritatune. I'm just saying, range tank, gun shields, it's right there. You can have this one. Got magic shields that shoot beams? They could, I'm just saying, Uber Penguin. Ritatune is an NPC in the game that use 2 gun shields, as in shields with guns. There's also a boss that is like you fight once at some point. It's optional. That uses a gun blade and a gun shield. So I'm just saying, it's already in the game. There's already a guy that used 2 gun shields. I was like, better use. Hope you're doing well. What kind of 1-2-3 combo would a gun shield have? Maybe they wouldn't have a 1-2-3 combo. Wouldn't that be wild? Yeah, exactly, Raging Bull. Everyone's shocked at the guy that mains Gunlands in Monster Hunter's like, yeah, 2 gun shields, that's a good idea. Do that. And yeah, that's true, Nobon. They have quite effectively demonstrated how they could go about inventing almost anything as a tank job and just like copy the same formula. Uh-oh. Fleshbuster! When there's something strange! Uh-oh. Out on the street. Who are you gonna call? Fleshbusters? What? Eh? Guy busters. Uh-oh. We have got a gun tank and a gun DPS, mean the gun healer. Isn't that Sage? Yeah. Isn't that Sage? I'm pretty sure that that's as close as we get as Sage. Right? Healing bullets. Is mommy? Nope, we're doing well. Shield DPS seems a little incongruous though. It does. And it could work. But yeah, it does. But it could work. I feel like the way that a shield DPS would make sense is the mentioned sub-jobs earlier. Let's say that each sub-job is like each job's sub-jobs enable them to play a role they like, at least sometimes enable them to play a role they don't normally. So like a paladin could have, you know, regular tank paladin and then they get a DPS paladin. Well, they already have a shield. Man, that could work. I mean, William, that's the joke, right? But Machinist actually does very good damage. It's just that it's not the best. And while it is at like it's in the low tiers of damage, that doesn't mean that it heals the enemies, as people joke. Machinist is actually really strong. It's just that it's not strong in the way that people want it to be strong. Cosmemaker says, is Highfire and Blizzard 2 still not worth using, how you mentioned in your Black Mage guide? Correct. Black Mage has received no changes since my 7.2 Black Mage guide. So there's, like, the only time you would use Highfire 2 and High Blizzard 2 is in very specific cases. You might use High Blizzard 2 as a way to, like, bridge yourself over to single target rotation, because you kind of need to enter Umbral Ice 3 to switch to single target. So, like, you can finish off an AoE with High Blizzard 2. Or if you're like, if you're trying to set up a slightly bigger burst, like if mobs are currently being rounded up and you have nothing else to do, you could cast Blizzard, like High Blizzard 2, so that you can get your full MP and then like get a faster High Fire 2 cast. Like you can basically choose to do these weaker attacks to set up a like double Astral Fire 3 flare. For instance. Another thing is, if you enter Umbral Ice in like the transpose flare rotations, like you go flare, 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 start transpose, freeze, and then you realize that you don't have any blanks to cast, casting High Fire 2 with the 3-second cast time is better than casting freeze again. Exactly the other options you have, of course, also comes up for debate. And an additional High Thunder 2 is usually worse, because, well, it doesn't do very much damage now, does it? So if the dot doesn't need to be reapplied, then you don't want to cast High Thunder 2. If there's a lot of enemies, then that slow High Fire 2, leading to a better first flare cast, is going to be better than Paradox by, like, a tiny bit. But basically, High Fire 2 and High Blizzard 2 are, under optimal circumstances, very situational. Right. The second party is out. In that case, the next thing we're doing is... Let me just move over here. If you'd like to join me for high-level dungeons, come on over to me. Oh, there's one more thing you would use them for. When you enter a dungeon, like as your first GCD, you will probably use Swift Cast, and then if there's like 3 mobs next to each other, you'll use Blizzard 2. If there's only one, like if there's only 1 or 2, you'll use Blizzard 3. I will often like go. Like my opener in a dungeon, like on the first pack, is often, if there's 3 mobs, Blizzard 2, Freeze, Transpose, High Fire 2. And that might not make a lot of sense, but because the mobs are like on the way, I'm doing exactly what I explained. I'm sacrificing some damage now for a bigger burst in a moment. It's also a way to get Astral Fire 3, just like that. And then I'll often use Paradox from there, so that I have a fire starter for the single target a little later. If there's only 1 or 2 targets, I'll use Blizzard 3, Blizzard 4, Transpose, Fire 3, Paradox instead. So it's just target count. It's just about target count. I grabbed the quests earlier, Caitlin. I didn't do them yesterday. But thank you anyway. But basically, those are like, they're situational spells. Knowing when to use them is a skill in and of itself. And if you do a lot of dungeons at low levels, then you'd probably need to have them, just in case, right? Also, Asdal's Legacy, that's pretty nice. Oh man, no Flare Star. My Flare Star. Hey Naomi, I think they've been going well, but we're not that far down the list yet. I should have used Paradox there. You just did this one in MSQ? Nice. Very nice. I don't have a blank. I'm drawing a blank. But that is also part of the reason why I thought it made sense to also like do a little bit of the daily roulettes with Black Mage, is that like there's a lot of things with Black Mage where the exact correct answer to stuff is a little more complicated than, oh, it's just always this. Even if some people would really like it to be otherwise. That's also the case with the machinist thing I was talking about. A lot of people want to paint everything in black and white and shove them in boxes, but it's a lot more complicated than that. It's a lot more complicated than that. Once you recognize that the game's a lot more complicated than that, it'll be a little bit more fun. A tank job where the theme is unrelated to combat. That's a good point. That could be fun. How would that work? What would that be? What weapon would they use? A pet job tank, Shorakai. Yeah, Puppeteer is a Final Fantasy XI job. I don't know if they were, like, whether their puppet could legitimately tank, but they did have a puppet that was, like, a big part of how they worked. I didn't mean to transpose, I wanted to mana font. But it's too late now. I'll just have to deal with it. Reload! Hey Nixie2, hope you're doing well. You've done it once? It's a fun dungeon. I've done it a lot of times. About a mage tank that is not a melee job? That is also one that I've suggested. Just straight up any... Like, I've said a lot of different versions of, can we have a range tank? Mage, straight up, like, quote-unquote ranged physical style. Just a range tank would be cool, because that's something we don't have. But part of the problem is that because boss fights are generally balanced around the assumption that tanks are melee, it is a colossal advantage to have. Let me put it like this, without getting too specific. The second boss in the first raid tier of Dawntrail, Honeybee Lovely, has entire phases where she just locks herself in place in the middle of the arena. She will only auto-attack the tank if she's in range. Which means that if the tank steps away, then she'll just stop attacking altogether. But only Paladin can really use that for something. And it still comes at a cost because they lose auto attacks by stepping away. If you had a tank that was straight up wholesale, full ranged, you see how that could be a little problematic with that kind of design. Like, obviously, they could just go, well, we don't make bosses like that anymore then. Nixie2 says, how would a ranged tank even work? Because enemies would walk towards you anyway, falsely putting you into melee. The way a ranged tank would work, Nixie2, stay with me for a moment. The way a ranged tank would work is the same way that Black Mage works in the wild. You just shoot ranged attacks at the enemy. And guess what happens when they reach me? Then they just get to hit me. Or I'll just step away. Like, consider that a ranged job does not mean that it has to magically always have distance advantage on the enemy. At some point, the enemies will reach you. That's how the world works. Also, hey Oscar, hope you're doing well. It's been a bit. And also, hey May, hope you're doing well as well. And I find it funny because almost every single time that I mentioned a ranged tank, that's the thing people jump to. But wait, how would a ranged tank work? Well, they would have ranged attacks. That's technically the only requirement to be ranged. They would have 20 yalms of range. Actually, 25 yalms of range on their attacks. And then the boss would reach you. And then you would stand your ground, because otherwise your melee DPS are going to strangle you. What trade-offs do you think a tank should have in exchange for being ranged? I don't know, ask Paladin. They already have a whole ranged part of their rotation. But in all seriousness, who knows? That is exactly the reason why a ranged tank might be a problem. Is it would probably have less defensive cooldowns. They would probably not have a gap closer, right? They would definitely not have a gap closer. What would they use that for? So they would probably have less mobility than the other tanks, but they can just, you know, stroll around because they're fully ranged. But how much less defensives would they need to be balanced, right? Because being ranged itself is an advantage. Someone has a gap close for some reason? Yeah, but it's not a tank. In fact, arguably the gap closer that Summoner has is a disadvantage. It's something they have to do to maintain their damage. For some, a blessing is a curse. Yeah, exactly, Naomi. And then the boss has ranged auto attacks, and then it doesn't matter. But yeah, basically, the problem with making a ranged tank is primarily that any case where it's an advantage that they're ranged, it's a colossal advantage, and it's really difficult to balance that. And all the situations where it's not an advantage, the job would be basically doing some sort of tank equivalent of, you know, quote-unquote ranged attacks. For nothing. I believe the boss crowd controls us after like exactly 20 seconds or so. That's why I just... Yep, it's really fast. That's why I just dropped the ley lines immediately. Yeah, exactly, Squishy. Obviously, the ranged tank would need to be doing the same damage as the other tanks, otherwise it just wouldn't work. Like, approximately. Just like with everything else. The Articus, hope you're doing well. Articus. It's like a Spartan. Paladin's rotation has a frequent buff that makes their Holy Spirit do more damage and be instant, which basically means that their melee rotation frequently gives them an instant ranged attack. Their burst has at least four fully ranged AoE attacks as part of it in the Confiteor combo. Which means that Paladin can technically step away from a boss and only suffer minor damage loss because they don't get to auto-attack at range. So it's sort of like an inverse of Red Mage, where Red Mage steps in to do their burst. Paladin can step out while doing theirs. Maya says, I had thought about one thing. If someone just was made a tank at one point instead of a DPS, that would be pretty funny. There was actually a brief moment in time. Well, there was a brief moment in time in A Realm Reborn where the quote-unquote meta strat to tank Ramuh Extreme was to use a summoner for it, because their pet, the Titan pet, could do it without grabbing orbs. And their Titan pet could tank. And there were probably like every so often, like infrequent situations where you could use Titan to tank for you, but then Shadowbringers made it no longer able to tank for you. And then Endwalker removed it. Is Team 2 back? Or did they not go? You are back. In that case, if you'd like to join me for leveling Roulette, come on over to me. I'm trying to, like, since we have a bunch of people that have already gone, I'm trying to grab the ones that haven't gone as many times. Still stuck with guys. Double Black Mage. Oh, we're getting like... We're probably getting like Aurum Vale. Or Stone Vigil. Or Zemail Darkhold. Clearly what this game needs is more summoner reworks. There must always be a summoner rework. Hey Rust, hope you're doing well, and thank you. Oh boy. Remember that you don't have Living Dead. And I don't have Flare. Oh my. Oh my. This is going to suck. Well, not exactly. Oh dear. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We have another pack. We have another pack. You may need to lean further behind the wall to get those lilies safely inside. Oh yeah, definitely no pun. I feel like reworking a job to be a whole different role than it was is not a good idea. But the thought of it is pretty funny, right? Did someone mention Survival Hunter? Ah, yes, when World of Warcraft reworked a ranged DPS. And one of the simplest ranged DPS in the game to one of the most complicated melee DPS in the game. A melee DPS, by the way, that was situated on an otherwise fully ranged class. Great idea, right? I believe they also like really nailed it in by making sure the melee specialization had less defensive cooldowns than the range specializations. Yep. Funny that. They basically did the opposite of, you know, let's rework Summoner to be quote unquote simpler. They straight up went, how about if we took Endwalker Summoner and made it melee, full melee, and also made it like extra complicated. Like extra complicated. Wasn't Bard originally a healer? Not in 14, but they did originally have healers limit break in Realm Reborn. A quick tip for next time is that if you just run straight down the middle in this room, you can skip both of the left and right Diorite packs. You might not be able to skip the patrol in the middle, but you would be able to skip both of the optional side packs. Now you know for next time. Like just if the patrol is in the way, you just pull it. If it's not, then you might just get a freebie. I've done Aurum Vale a lot. And how can you tell? I'll say stupid genius. Hope you're doing well. Did you just straight up not have the fairy for this whole time, Nox? Well, that explains why it was so dangerous. Wow. At least it wasn't like... Oh, you left it in the first room. Okay, not as bad. I like Aurum Vale. It's not the most awesome dungeon, and it is one of those that can really go sideways if people don't know what to do. But that's like what makes it interesting. Is that it is actually a dungeon where it punishes you if you don't respect it. A lot of dungeons could use that. Like, I'm just saying, while people are like, why don't we have it? Like, why are all dungeons 2 pulls and a boss? Aurum Vale is right there. And people hate it. Hey, Ike. Hope you're doing well. This pack... usually it's safer to just grab it. But sometimes if you just hug the wall, you only grab half of it. You can basically get away with only pulling half of it. It's rather specific. Or half of the mobs could reset. That's technically also an option, I guess. What? Sure, why not? Why not? A Realm Reborn, everyone. Hey, Krisnik. Hope you're doing well. Yes, there is. Standard can give you better control of exactly where your character's facing. It also allows you to control the direction of your character's movement while using your camera movement separately. The important part is to always remember that you just choose what works best for you. And then you can always bring it up if someone is clearly having trouble with the control scheme they've chosen. But otherwise... no. Standard controls can basically do everything Legacy can. At least to the degree where you need it. In nearly all situations. And then you can shove it down others' throats. Here's a fun detail to that, Nixie2. Technically, legacy controls cannot run backwards while quote-unquote still facing the boss. That's actually not something you can do. As a matter of fact, you can only run away in that way while not facing the boss, because legacy controls will spin you around full 180. It'll, you know, look at the boss for 1 frame to attack, but it'll actually look away, which in niche situations can actually be a problem. But it is funny because a lot of the time, people that that are all in on legacy controls don't realize that standard controls are not that different. Because they've never used them. They just assume that they're bad because a lot of people say that they're bad. But those people that say that they're bad haven't used standard controls very much most of the time. So take it from me, someone who's not saying that legacy controls are bad, and sometimes will use legacy controls when they're advantageous, but generally play standard controls. Both options are fine. Use what works for you. Take it from the neutral from the mostly neutral party. Admittedly, I do prefer standard. But I'm not waltzing around here saying that legacy is bad. As Nal says, as a controller player, I'm just gonna like stop right there and say if you're on a controller, then you should be playing on legacy controls. Standard doesn't really work on a controller. Like it straight up, like on that one, as the standard connoisseur over here, I'm telling you, if you're on a controller, you should not be playing on standard controls. Ever. Again, mostly neutral party. Yeah, exactly, Hasenal. You basically, if you're playing on standard controls, you're basically playing on what old school gamers would call tank controls. Which means that you're playing a game like this. And like, that's too slow. The only reason why standard controls works perfectly fine on a mouse and keyboard is because you can do this. You can even do this. I don't know what you would use this for, but I'm pretty sure that because of legacy controls, like controlling the direction of your character, unless you're auto running, by way of what way your camera's facing, doing this would be pretty hard. But why would you? Thank you, Hopazon. Like, what would you do this for? Like, this could be handy if, like, you're like, I have to run this way and then exactly here. Like, maybe that's handy for Don Meg, like the thin line. If you can really nail it, that might be handy. But I don't know. I think I'm not that confident in my angling there. Hey Emily, thank you for celebrating 6 months as part of the Cult of the Pink. Thanks so much for the support. And the heart. Chrisnick says, is there any reason to ever lock target? I accidentally found out that was a thing you could do. On controller, I know soft targeting is a thing that can be super handy, especially for healers. If you're on mouse and keyboard, depends on how you play the game. But I have a feeling that if you do use lock target, based on what I'm understanding that it means, you would probably very, very much want to also use soft targeting to like complement that. On a different note, if you'd like to join me for Trials Roulette, come on over to me. Oh, Team 2 is still in. See, Team 2 is still in. I'll wait for Team 2. They got Holminster Switch. But hey, if you want to come along, you'd like still coming over to me. But, you have a favorite trial? What is soft targeting? Do I have soft targeting bound? How does one soft target indeed? Does anyone remember how to soft target? Right, like this. This is soft targeting. Do you see how I technically am targeting the striking dummy? Because you can see the targeting reticle there, but at the same time it's showing this circle pointing at me because I'm also targeting myself. So I'm targeting Naomi. I will use, like, I'm using it from this menu because my ethereal manipulation on my hotbar is actually a macro that targets mouse over. So do this. You see, I used it on Naomi and immediately my target went back to the striking dummy. So basically it's a way to allow you to cast one thing on someone. Which can be super handy if, like, for instance, you're Astrologia and you're casting Malefic, and what you need to do is you want to cast a balance card on the melee DPS. So you just go scroll down to the melee DPS and then balance card them. And then you're back on the target. If you're on mouse and keyboard, you probably don't need this. But otherwise... right. Once again, if you'd like to join me for Trials Roulette, come on over to me. I'm guessing people are still kind of already here, but just asking to be sure. We are 9 people here, that is correct, so one person has to sit out. One person would have to sit out. Gazel chooses to sit out, fair enough. And before we were 9 without Gazel, wouldn't that be funny? Hey Jonas, hope you're doing well. There's a pinned message. This looks to work. It's worth trying, Kekamui. I've always, like, I've known for a while that that was an option, but every time I've seen it, I don't, like, I end up not using it. And that is true, Tessie. The problem is, what else could I do? What else can I do? Doot, doot, doot. Where are we going? Ooh, Nidhogg. Bam, ba, ba, bam, 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 ba, bam, bam, bam. Ba, 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 ba. Mika. You know what also slaps, mommy? It's my black mage rotation. Check this out. Oh no. Hat face. Actually, let me just set down this. I think I can. No, no. Let's hope that I'm out of range of that. That is such a classic. Why me? Why me? Yeah, I know that feeling, Caetsu. I will say, you might, like, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm saying I had that experience, that the cursor was either way too large or way too small. I had that experience specifically when my resolution was interpreted incorrectly by the game. So maybe, like, check around, see a little bit if everything's looking the size that they should be. It's also possible that your monitor's just really big, which causes the same issue. Fire 4! Fire 4! And Fire 4! I knew it. I knew it. I should have just not done it. I should just not have done it. Oh, man. Yeah, exactly, Rydian. The fact that you get Firestarter and then later you just get an action that straight up just completely overrides Fire 1 means that the Firestarter's existence is just like... It's really strange. You can still do some optimization on it. You can still do the UI1 B3 Swift cast, but it's really awkward. You don't really want to do it with Thunder. So... like, the timing has to be... like, you don't want to delay Thunder for it, but that's, like, your only instant. So... what do you do? What do you do? You don't. You just don't. You just don't get to do it. Ah. There's also the part that UI1 B3 Swiftcast is such a small game that most of the time it doesn't really matter. Like, I could set up everything I need to make sure that I get UI1 B3 Swiftcast here, but it would actually be a damage loss. Like, to do that in the downtime, because I would have to switch back to Ice, then open with Thunder, and then go back to Fire, but that would require me to cast a Cold Fire 3 again, which otherwise I wouldn't have to. So you don't want to do that? It's better to just here. Boink. I feel like I set myself up for that one. At least the hot wings here weren't pointed at my ley lines. He really doesn't like my ley lines. I'm putting down my ley lines. Have we determined if ley lawns are better than ley lines? How so? I don't think so, Kresnik. I don't think so. Hey, Judgment Dragon. Hope you're doing well. Speaking of, we're doing normal raids next. Does Athelm here also want to come for that? Athelm? Because in which case would have to have a cycle. Stupid Geniuses, maybe in 8.0 they'll just make the ley lines a self-buff where we aren't anchored. In 8.0, I'll do you one better, Stupid Genius. In 8.0, they'll make it a self-buff where you are anchored. Like you put it down and it straight up like puts a chain on you and drags you back if you try to leave. Wouldn't that be funny? Also, thank you, Nox. It's pretty funny the way I sometimes do this thing in when we're doing M7S prog, where I'll put my ley lines down at a spot, knowing that I'll have to move it, like I'll just have to shove it like 5 inches to the right, where I almost like move over to the edge of the ley line and then replace it. So it almost like I'm like dragging a carpet with my feet. You know what I mean? Like. Hey Vanek, hope you're doing well. And I agree, Rydian. I'm also joking. Fist of the Father! Run! Did you know that the wacky knockbacks in this room just over here can be blocked with knockback immunity? You're probably not surprised by that knowledge, but you can. And you can also block it with shield, that's true, Zaf. That does, however, require a little bit of setup. I have a spear! Spear. Spear. A good thing I moved to the edge of my ley line. He's bringing in his partner, the other guy. I did not mean to do that, but I guess we're doing that. I guess I did. I actually didn't want to use mana font in this pull. I planned all along. I didn't actually want to do it. I actually wanted to stamp the brakes and just like awkwardly not do anything for a few seconds. That's what I wanted to do. Yeah. Yes. Definitely. That was the plan all along. Thank you, Ardil. And that's a good question, Caitlin. But hey, if you want a lot of relic weapons, you could just buy a bunch and then call it, like, be done. Oh, Zav hopped out. Next, we're doing alliance raids. Do we have a volunteer that wants to join us for alliance raids? Maybe Gazel wants in since Gazel hopped out earlier. Yes, no, maybe. Zav is doing Syncademy stuff. Good luck to them. Do you ever drop ley lines mid-air? Actually, now that you mention it, I basically never do. I basically never ever do. A bunch of material, I'm not as rich as you. Is it that expensive? Is it that... Aren't they old materia? What are you buying? Crit? Yeah, we can wait, Yannick. The next stop is Alliance Raids, to be clear. And then we'll be doing M5 to 8N. And then... Well, we'll see if we still have time. You know, Smami, a lot of people have done that. The relic material stays expensive because of lack of supply, at least in NA. Really? Really? I don't have any on me. I specifically found that the grade 1, 2s, and 3s are not that expensive. Like, okay, yeah, that they're not like vendor value expensive, like, but they're not like supremely expensive. We can also grab Nox, Yannick, and then you can join for raid reclears. How does that sound? I know at least, I'm pretty sure there's at least one person in the party that can't join for normal raid reclears. So, that would resolve itself. I'm on my way if that makes a difference. Oh, in that case, then we will wait. We shall wait. NA has a lot of people just scalping low-level material prices. Error. Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. It's also possible that I, like, my point of reference of expensive materia is different. Exactly because... Well, it's a little hard to see because the chat is in the way, but you can see how much gil I have. I don't think that's a lot. Like, personally, I don't think that's a lot. It's not as much a lot as some other people have. But most of it is earned by simply not spending much. Last I saw you had like 63. I think it's been a while since I had 63. A few weeks ago I had over 70. Then I bought I bought this. Are you ready? I bought this. And then I dropped down below 70 again. And want to grind for it? Well, no. Basically, silly, I realized how rare it was and determined, just like I have with other things in the game, that it was actually faster and easier to simply earn the money and then buy it. And part of my quote-unquote research on that is also Aradel, who actually tried to grind it and just didn't get it. It's an extremely low drop rate. Yeah, I'll say the way I've done about a Realm Reborn Relics is the point that you don't really care what stat it is. So like if like crit is really expensive, I'll just buy a different one. I'll say Lotus and Busy. Hope you're doing well. Have you done Southhorn? Yes? Question mark? I've done streams of it. I've done a guide on it. I've been there. You have a question? What's your question? Thank you, Ardil. Ardil also said, I tried again today and got 5 more bronze chests. I'm assuming it's bronze chests from the pot things? Is it worth it to sell the carrot or use it? That of course depends on how much it is worth, but if it's still as valuable as I've seen previously, then you should sell it. If you're just in it for like what gives you the most money value, then you should sell it. The only thing that it can give you that is more valuable than the carrot itself would be the twirly mode, assuming that is still worth over was still worth over like 1.7 million. Because I believe the chest that the carrot gives you like 300k straight. And then things. But if it doesn't give you the twirly mode, then you're losing money. I don't know if the parasols are worth a lot, but like the carrot itself is worth a lot, so it's a huge risk to not just sell it. The twirl is worth an additional million, then in that case you should sell it. Uh-oh. Caitlin says, I sold my first carrot. Understandable. I never got one. Did the chest in a cult drop to 11 or 12 materia? Both. A mix of both. The carrot from Occult Crescent is an item that allows you to open basically a quote-unquote treasure chest that is a half-eaten carrot. The treasure chest itself is just a golden chest that has cash in it and some loot. But that loot can be worthless or very valuable. But the chance that it is actually very valuable is very low. But it just so happens that the carrot itself is tradable, so some people just choose to trade it. Can you get low-level material from old chests and old dungeons and chests? Yes, you can. I'm pretty sure. You know, the carrot is basically an item that gives you access to a treasure chest. But the treasure chest often has less valuable items than the carrot itself, ironically. Eventually the price will stabilize to a point where it'll actually be at a price point where, like, it'll be cheaper than the items that is in it. Because that would make logical sense. It's more effort to use the carrot. But at best, I'd imagine that its price would average to, you know, approximately the average value of what's in the chest. What's happening with Angramanyu? He do be spinning, though. Okay, Caitlin, enjoy your evening. That is correct, Uber Penguin, but you have to remember that the price will not necessarily fluctuate in a logical way because you're dealing with gamers. You're dealing with gambler's fallacy. You're dealing with people thinking, I'll be lucky. You're dealing with people that don't even know what the drop rates on the things are. I believe there's also an achievement for opening a certain number of chests from the carrot, which means some people will buy the carrot with no interest in the actual items in it, which will probably, like, pull the value up a little bit. So, like, there's a lot of factors that play in that basically mean that we don't know for sure where the price will, like, average out. I was like, hey, Symmetricon, hope you're doing well. But yeah, it's like a multitude of things that interact with the carrot. So exactly where its price point will land is a little hard to determine. Sorry, you do it. I wasn't sure if someone was gonna do it, so I was like, better that someone shoots a limit break than no one. Where do you think the next housing district will be? No idea. Hey Vince, hope you're doing well. I have no idea. I don't even know if they will make another housing district anytime soon. Exactly, Kurux. Will there be another housing district? That's the real question. That is an excellent question. I don't know. I do not know. Who knows, Vinik? The thing is, at least in EU region, I can say that we have like, I'm pretty sure, as far as I know, that we have straight up small houses vacant. Like, if you want a house, you can get one in EU DCs. Like, that you can straight up just get one if you want one. So we've actually reached a point where there isn't, like, too few houses for everyone. Now, there might not be enough large houses for everyone, but there's enough houses for everyone, which is at least progress. But also, I'll just mention, like, just for a little bit of clearing up confusion. Just real quick clearing up some confusion. I think when people say there will be more housing districts, they mean, like, will there be housing in addition to Gridania, Uldar, Limsa, Kogane, Ishgard? Like, will there be a sixth one? Possibly eventually. But some others might also think that they mean more wards. Which is, you know, each ward is 60 houses. Like, basically a copy of the district. And they had, like, in Endwalker, they massively increased the amount of wards that were in the game. Like, a lot of wards were added. They also adjusted exactly how that works. So there are certain wards that only, like lone players can buy. And there are also wards that only free companies can buy. To try and, like, separate it a bit. Which is also not bad. But whether they'll add more places you can have a house, I don't know. But I'm almost certain that if there was a high enough player count increase that there simply isn't enough housing, then they would increase the amount of wards again. Also, hey, Nilan and Kat, hope you're doing well. Here's a tip. If the Atomos targets you, you can basically deny its white hole cast altogether by just voluntarily stepping down. Like, if you just step down, it'll fail to suck you in, and then it'll just not do the white hole cast. And you will also not be stuck in there for a bit. You'll of course have to still jump back up, but you can spend the time you save by not being in the Atomos to begin with to do that. World of Darkness optimization, everyone. By the way, we're the Belly team. Woohoo! I don't want to be behind the boss. Remember, you have to get Schmoll first, which is happening at Athelm. The Schmoll puddle is at Athelm. Ah, yes. And the goop is in Narnia. DPS rush. I don't think I've ever seen a party that just ignored the belly. Because the times I've seen the belly go wrong or ignored has always led to a wipe. Like, I'm definitely not going to rely on every DPS in the belly. Look, the way I usually do it, Nixiter, is I go in the belly and then I hope that I'm not alone in there. That's how I do it. Exactly, Helnas. Just convince everyone to go. It's the safest method. Also, I'm getting a little scared. I was trying to step away. We have a Sprout tanking the boss. Actually, Nixitur, I have a Mythbuster video on that, answering that exact question. Actually, the exact number of players that Cerberus is willing to eat depends on how many people are alive. He wants about 5 players out on the field to play with him. If you have exactly that number of players out on the field, you will get a notification that he is satisfied, and then he will just ignore anyone who goes in the goop after that. Thank you, Ardell. There's the video. But if you send more in, so like you're less than 5 outside, he will actually just barf out everyone early. He'll barf out everyone early. That's it. And that video demonstrates it. That is a Craftermancer crown, Sally. The thing you're looking at here is the XP bonus, which is from Ilya. Ilya is a Sprout character because an alt. I'm not exactly sure why Shaq specifically also gets the bonus, while no one else is. Potato to potato. It could be that. It's not a max level job. So the bonus is given. That would make sense. Wink. There's something funny about Cloud of Darkness doing this, putting up a barrier, and the barrier takes damage so quickly that it tends to be dead long before the mechanic is finished. Always. Yeah, when she starts sucking in the clouds, she immediately gets a damage a barrier that reduces the damage she takes, or not reduces, that blocks damage like straight up, as in like a scholar barrier. But she gets one for physical damage and one for magical damage, and I mean both of them tends to break. That's also why when you try to attack her anyway, that it does work, and it's just like, it's a 0. Zarb says, so if someone didn't know what the clouds actually do, each small one gives 1 damage up stack, big ones give 3, she caps out at 16. Really? I remember ages ago that I did World of Darkness where a lot of people actually ignored some of the clouds. And I specifically remember that in that specific poll, when the 3 hexagon things appear where you like have to split up your raid to do them, that exactly was when like worms appeared and wiped us like a moment later. So I just assumed that that was like a punishment for that. Right. So next up on the list is we are doing M1 to 7. M5 to 8. That was that sentence is completely wrong. M5 to 8. Normal. So, if you want to join for that, come on over to me. I have a feeling we might not actually be a full party anymore. So, a Steichen arrived in my garden. Is that you, Buzzy? I have space for 2, cat. Buzzy, is that you? Is this you? It is not. Who this? I'll say Van Sway. Hope you're doing well. Venix says his standard alliance raid etiquette still Group A focus on ads, Group B on the boss, and Group C on crowd control? Like in World of Darkness? Like in World of Darkness, specifically Cerberus, the general like etiquette quote unquote, and that's big quotation marks here, is that A kills the ads, B goes in the belly, and C takes the chains, and the boss. But no one does that. Which is why the joke comparison is to just say everyone goes in the belly. I'm still asking, who is this Daiken in the chat? And Buzzy, if you check the pinned comment. Hey Freezy, hope you're doing well. Golden Fox is his Daiken. Sure. Do you also want to come for normal raid reclears? And thank you for the 5 gifted memberships, Jack. Thank you so much. That's such a surprise. Thanks so much. Of course, Vansway. What is your question? He knows well. Hope you're doing well. I mean, you don't necessarily need a cancel hide macro. You can also, like, the way I sometimes do it when I'm really lazy is I, like, go like this. You don't even need to hit anything for that to work, by the way. Just AoE button. Any job recommendations for someone returning to the game? Can't remember anything, so basically new. Don't like pet or dot classes. So you should not play Scholar or Summoner, because they're basically the ones with pets at all. You should probably not play Bard. And if you don't like dots, like if you completely hate dots, you should probably not play healers. But the things you indicated are like, most of the other jobs are like neither of those things. So I wouldn't be able to give you proper suggestion without you like going into more detail with what you want. You've only said what you don't want. Hey Ruby, hope you're doing well. I will also say, just for a moment, guys, that if Vansway is starting from the start, then Samurai isn't even an option, initially. Buzzy, are you on the way? But what you could try, Vansway, I will say some of them might be mildly outdated on things, but I have like a series of videos of like job comparisons, which might help you give some like very, very general insights on each job. You could also watch some of my job guides. If you watch the newest one, because sometimes there's a new one, you should get like reasonably up-to-date information. Something not too complicated, I guess. I don't know. A lot of players would probably agree with me if I said that Warrior and Paladin, and to some degree Dark Knight, are relatively easy to pick up. They might have a lot of complexity deeper down, but they are all reasonably easy tanks to pick up. Summoner is considered relatively straightforward. Dancer. Viper, although it starts at level 80. I would also say Monk is pretty straightforward to pick up. So it kind of depends on what you want to play. Arguably, Machinist is also pretty easy to pick up, but there's a lot of moving parts, so it might be very overwhelming. Isn't it hard to play tank when you don't know encounters? Not necessarily. Remember, Vansway, that somewhat, like, that a lot of players tank as their first job. They just figure it out. But if you're scared of that, then yeah, you should probably not tank. But I also suggested some non-tanks. Thank you, Aerodel.
Are you ready to get down? The Upstarts Cruiserweight campaign begins. Can you keep up with the rhythm? just getting
Hey, Cat.
started.
Hey, Kay. Hope you're doing well.
Baby.
Dancing Green is pulling out all the stops with these steps.
On the dance floor, everyone's a star.
On the dance floor, no one can hear you scream. What?
Bask in the spotlight and burn, baby, burn.
An invitation to dance. How will the challenger respond?
Come on, show me your moves.
Is there a benefit to re-clearing these? Well, the loot from these are on a weekly lockout, so if you want any of the loot, then there you go. If you're a Savage Raider, then there might not be that much value to be had, to be perfectly honest. Ow. But I usually do them because it's a pretty cheap way to get some like loot for other roles without having to buy crafted, for instance.
Amazing! They clearly anticipated that attack.
But I mainly do it because I think it's fun. It's just, there is a reason to do it. I might not care about that reason, but I think it's fun to do the fights.
Let's turn up the heat. Try to keep up now.
The fever's taken hold. Can the upstart keep up with Dancing Green?
You know, it's funny, Nixiter. There was, once upon a time, many years ago, most players would agree that Red Mage was the easiest of the 3 mages to play. A key thing to keep in mind is that being easy to play is not the same as being easy to play optimally.
With style.
And being the easiest doesn't necessarily say much either. Because I would say all 4 mages leave a lot of room to do it wrong. Like, even Summoner that people make all the jokes about being brain dead has a lot. Like, I've heard some absolutely hilarious ways that people have completely misunderstood how the job is played.
Show us some electrifying moves.
Oh yeah, we have LB3. Nixitur says, I would say there are definitely huge level ranges where you really can't play Summoner wrong. Okay, Nixitur, let me tell you this. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Burn, baby, burn.
A player that reached upper 60s not realizing that Carbuncle was non-negotiable and you had to summon it. Do you understand? Do you understand when I say that there are that mages are quote unquote easier to mess up than not mages? Yes, just ruin spam. The story was specifically that, like, their significant other was like, oh yeah, Summoner's pretty easy, you should try it. And then, like, they played a lot of levels, apparently not with them, and was like, I don't really like it, it's kind of bland. And then, like, their significant other realized that they were basically just ruin spamming after they had switched to, I think it was Red Mage, and were like, yeah, this is more interesting.
It's all over. Until next time.
Like, I'm basically saying, I'm not kidding. Imagine any way that a job could be played wrong. Any. There's an extremely high chance that not only has someone done it, I have in some capacity interacted with that player. Either directly, through my videos, or someone that has interacted with my videos and knows them. Any incorrect way to play a job, anything you can imagine is on the table. Even something that is so incredibly stupid or absolutely bonkers that you couldn't imagine anyone would do it. Someone has done it. I guarantee it. But yeah, the thing is, Red Mage, I would say, is a job where if you can get over the hurdle of understanding how to play the basics of the job at level 50. If you can get over the hurdle
Inspiration will you give me, I wonder?
of learning how it works at level 50, then it's pretty straightforward. Like, yes, there are some complexities to figure out, but like the basics are pretty much there. That is part of the reason why back in the day when Summoner and Black Mage were a lot more complicated, that Red Mage was the quote-unquote easiest of the mages. Was straight up just because it was like, it was more pick up and go.
With a flourish, Sugar Riot brings her work to
There's a
life.
50% chance that I chose right here. No! No! Well, it was a 50-50. And once again, I just want to make it clear that a job being easy to pick up or quote-unquote considered easy is not necessarily a bad thing. Like, some people view their job as being considered easy as if it's meant as like something derogatory, but it's really not. I would say for the most part it's an advantage. It's even better if it's both easy to pick up and also it has some depth. That would be amazing.
What's your favorite color? An image comes to me.
Oh, definitely Naomi. But those people are idiots.
Goodness! The rain has become a desert.
As Metricon says, there are a lot of players that like to calling things brain dead. Yeah, that is the internet losing nuance. This thing is easy. No, it's very easy. No, it's super simple. No, it's actually, it's baby mode. No, it's brain dead. Like what's it? Wojak point. Like it's just because it's the most easy word people have at the moment, but it's really not.
Watch out! It's a veritable storm of needles.
So that is pretty funny, Kay. Are you saying that I look that your dad is looking like me? Or that I'm looking like your dad? That's weird. I don't think it's the first time that has happened either.
Quicksand? Oh, you don't want to get caught in that.
You have buttons mapped to your mouse? I do, yes. I have an MMO mouse. I have a rather old video from the very start of Endwalker where I go over how my thought process of keybinds, and it hasn't really changed, but it's an old video. But that video also shows a picture that indicates exactly how my keybinds work, with like a picture of the side of my mouse.
When you can't decide on one thing.
And also, yeah, it's a ASMR kind of days.
What do you think of this?
I'm pretty sure this is fine. Yep.
Stuck square.
We need an old video of Kai going over his hair care routine. Wait, what? What? Why? What? What?
What do you say to a refreshing riverscape?
That's a new one. That says a lot. The other day, someone requested that I make a video of just 10 minutes of me saying reprise. Thank you, Kay. I got a haircut recently. Maybe that helps. I'm just going to stand still, I guess. Yeah, 10 minutes of reprise. I sent them a link to my Red Mage opener short.
This is no good. It needs a touch.
I said, I don't quite have that, but I do say a lot of French words. Thank you, Ardell. That is the video I was talking about, Vansway. Ardell posted in the chat. Like, the picture should be straight up on frame 1. Like, if you just open the video, it should be right there. If you're curious.
The storm has turned the waters muddy. How frightening.
I have it. Some destruction to facilitate deconstruction.
Wow, we're doing a lot of damage. We're about to skip the thunderstorm.
Massive raging storm.
A massive raging storm. And it's gone. The song
It's all
dropped.
over. Until next time.
I will pass on it. Hopefully someone that doesn't have it wins it. Yeah, what helps the most is definitely if everyone's really good. The worse the players overall are, the better it is if some of the DPS are selfish. Both of our tanks have like 10 out of 10 portraits.
Will the unenhanced warrior be able to contend with this chimerical foe? Mine. He's used his feral powers to manifest a weapon.
Roulettes says Redoublement is my favorite. That's a good one. Oh, right. I was supposed to move there. Well, too late for that now. Guess I'll just look silly with this Vuln stack. Well, I had to get those ley lines out quickly. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to get the full value with it before the boss would force me to move. The alternative Agent Monica would be to just buy them, of course, but I could imagine that they would be very expensive. Oh boy. I'm coming over! Wait for me!
We should just rival flying.
Splat.
Fearsome strength.
I'm reloading.
Goodness me, the brute abominator is hanging on the building.
Yeah, I agree, Vinnick. I particularly liked back when Dragonsight actually had a beam. It's a shame they removed that. That was fun.
He's bounding from wall to wall.
You know what's even better about Dragonsight? I actually have a Mythbuster video on it. It was the only technically infinitely stackable damage buff. Because the receiver version of it, like the one that you gave to the other player, for some reason stacked. So if you actually had like 5 Dragoons using Dragonsight on one person, it actually worked. Each stack would like improve the rest. You would also be able to see that the person had like 3 Dragonsight buffs. Hey Harry, hope you're doing well. I'm doing well. We're almost like we finished the dailies early and went on to do some technically weekly stuff. I should not have used ley lines there. Why did I do that?
The rooftop has caved in. Such devastation.
That was terrible. My ley lines.
We'll send cameras in there at once.
I'll use my ley lines to umbral soul faster, I
The
guess.
destruction appears to have started a fire.
Hey, Mr. Bright. Hope you're doing well. Probably why they got rid of it. I don't know, Benex. See, the thing is, it made sense, kind of, that it stacked with itself in a way back when it did that. Because, I mean, like, it only worked when you were in range, right? Then they removed, then not only did they remove the requirement to be in range, but then they made the range, like, they made the range like 30 ohms or something. So it just stopped mattering altogether. So, like, originally, it was kind of like a difficult setup to get, like, multiple dragon sights. But then, like, they made it really easy. And my best guess is that they just went, oh yeah, I guess it's bugged like that. Who's gonna use it? Basically no one, or whatever. And then they just deleted the action.
What a thrilling battle this!
Like, I know a lot of Dragoon mains that found Dragon Sight extremely annoying. I'm pretty sure they were Dragoon mains anyway, but I also know a lot of not Dragoon mains that found Dragon Sight really annoying. Crit buff? No. Dragon Sight was 5% more damage output for the other person. I believe it was 10% of the Dragoon. But it was 5% damage. Which meant that, like, the way you'll see in the video, I'll post it there, the way that you'll see that it is tested is that each extra Dragon Sight made the damage bigger. But there's limits. You can only have 8 Dragoons. And, like, you can only have 7 Dragoons buffing an arbitrary job. So, like, at worst, you'd be able to, like, get, like, what? 7 5% damage bonuses? You can get that without Dragoon right now. Like, the Dragoon only offers 1, so you could just have 7 jobs with a raid buff. An Astrologian would be able to break that scale better than a Dragoon could. The way a lot of people did it, K, is that they used a macro. So either mouse over target someone, or just set it to target their focus target, and then just, like, beforehand do this. So, like, it just targets them every time. Some also just had a macro that would just target a certain order of players. Like, they might sort their player list so that the DPS were at the top, and then it just target from the top and just find someone. Like, there were a lot of ways to avoid having to, like, find someone. Sure. Why not? Hey, Bondi. Hope you're doing well.
Can the challenger defeat the wolf in his own lair?
Cleave.
I wonder if you can keep up.
Such speed, it's as if there's a pack of him.
There's a chance that this'll work.
A stylish evasion, well done.
The why not was someone put down markers. Nailed it. Nailed it. I even got full value out of my ley lines. What you gonna do about it, Howling Blade? Yeah? How do you feel? How do you feel? How does it feel?
I do like toying with my prey.
Do you though?
Can you fend off a pack of wolves?
I don't know. Do you have a pack of wolves? Those are not wolves. These are men.
Fly true! The earth is mine to command!
Ah! Ow. Ow. I didn't realize that I had somehow magically managed to bait 2 circles on the exact same spot, so I ran right into the third one.
Not bad, but we've scarcely begun.
I never know which one to target first. I would rather have a full restart on my rotation and hold on to that flare star. My preference. Nice, Aerosol. That's when I realized that I'm pink. What?
Still you stand. How delightful.
Ugh. Where you going? I gave him the 1 damage donk of justice.
Fenrir's power can be wielded in surprising ways.
Surprising ways. Surprising ways. I'm telling you, it'll be a miracle if I get hit 0 times. I always get hit by this mechanic. Yep. I think I stopped my toe there. Like, I almost nailed it, but that was like a very, very small safe spot anyway. Enjoy food, Kay. Yeah, exactly, Bondi. I have heard that that mechanic is way easier on Savage.
You're mine.
Shadow Chase.
Avoided with ease. They knew just what to do.
I don't think I've heard that one before from Maiden. Avoided with ease, they knew just what to do.
Try this.
Oh boy. Nah! Run away! Glasses!
It's all over. Until next time.
There is something funny about those kinds of like total chaos mechanics, is that sometimes you'll discover that there's no rhyme or reason to it. Or it'll have like there will be a way to like control it, but no one cares. Or the way to control it is too complicated for normal, so no one cares. Like, I believe the alarm pheromones thing that is quote-unquote harder on normal is mainly because no one cares to control it. Because I'm pretty sure it works the same as in Savage. It's just that no one's trying to be even remotely structured about it. I don't know if there's anything to these towers, but it also reminds me of Ghost Park. Strabe or Roulette Walk, which many players still hate the first boss. I will say, if you have latency, then those children are evil. Absolutely monsters. But you can actually control them. If you have a healer, you obviously do most of the time, and a ranged DPS or a mage, then you can actually, if you choose to, you can control how the children will run. With very, very little variance if you actually consistently do it. I've said this multiple times, but hey, if another person learns it, that might be handy, because it might also like give you like some sort of like revelation that, oh, other boss fights might also be easier if you like get really smart with them. Which is like, when I do my mentor roulettes, I tend to like point out like some sort of weird optimization on a boss that like, who cares about optimizing your rotation or your clear speed in a guild test, like things like that, right? But maybe you do. But the trick is that when the children are called to dash at someone, they will dash at the player that is furthest away from them. Then they'll run across the arena, hit the edge, turn around, and then run at the closest player. Which means that if you have a healer and a ranged of some sort, and then you have a melee and a tank. The melee and the tank fights the boss in the middle, like real up close preferably. The healer goes to one end of the arena, and then the ranged goes to the exact polar opposite. And just touch the wall as close as you can. Make sure you position yourself so that there aren't two children like there isn't a child like right behind you. Like, make sure they have to like turn a little bit, like at a weird angle. Because that way you make sure that all of the children will basically like miss the middle of the arena, preferably by like pointing at the two outer players. And when the children then pass, you stay out at the edge so that you bait the children that came to you. And then they'll like completely miss everything. But it requires that two players are extremely strict about their outer positioning, and the other two players are extremely strict about not going out anywhere else. Like, they have to really stay in there at those points where the children are targeting, otherwise it doesn't work. You can also do it if you have two ranged. Then you just have to make sure that the healer and the tank are, like, in the middle. But the point is that you can control the children if you want to. You just need to choose to and know how to. And usually you don't, like, if you're solo queuing, good luck. What's the most powerful heals per minute healer at this point? I don't know. I would assume if you're talking straight maximum healing, then like immediately the barrier healers fall out, like fly out of the contest, because once all of your cooldowns are spent, the White Mage and the Astrologian are still spamming. Because White Mage has Cure 3, I'm going to guess that it would be White Mage that has the greatest potential to spam heal. Raging Bull, what's your... let me hear your argument for how Astrologian beats White Mage on raw healing. Raw healing. Because I just want you to remember that White Mage has this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Although, Astrologian also has this. But White Mage also has this. As far as I know, the way that the hierarchy works in... Also, yeah, Lilybell is no joke either. The hierarchy mainly works is that Astrologian has an advantage on mitigation over White Mage, whereas White Mage has the most healing. It's just White Mage has an overabundance of healing, whereas the other healers, quote-unquote, has enough healing. So sometimes White Mage feels like it's lacking something else, because it has so much healing that it doesn't need it. Is the strongest healing spell in the game if you use it fully? Well, if it's used to its full potential, it's 2000 cure potency. But it's also a pet. Just for the record, it's also a pet, so its actual potency is a little wacky. I would say, like, if we're talking about the biggest single mega heal, Macrocosmos might have a greater potential. Simply because if it gets to absorb enough damage, then it'll be 8 benedictions. Now, I think you misunderstand, Venik. Astrologian has more spells than White Mage. But White Mage has the most "this heals a lot" buttons. Right, Raging Bull. In that case, I think you misunderstood what was stated in the question. Venik said, what's the most powerful heals per minute healer at this point? How often do those mains heal versus DPS? If it's healing per minute, at least, then it doesn't matter how great your healing burst is, because, well, sure, it matters, but it has to be astronomically high to compensate if a different healer has better sustained healing. Because White Mage has Cure 3, primarily, is my argument. Like, if we're talking healing per minute, then, Your Honor, I present to you evidence, I call it Cure 3. I mean, yeah, freeze element. The thing is, well, how much does it heal? When it pops, it'll be half as much as the total healing it could do. Because when it pops, it'll pop 5 times 200 potency. Which is... let's see, 57,000. So if it was actually fully utilized, it would have been 104... well, 114,000. So technically... Macrocosmos has a greater potential. Because 114,000 is not 100% of my HP. Your honor, raw intuition. It has a cooldown. And it's only targeting at most 2 players. But there is also the part that the maximum potential of Liturgy of the Bell arguably is easier to do than Macrocosmos. Right? There's also the part that, like, in terms of convenience to consider, that Macrocosmos, you basically click it and then you just have to, like, hold now, and then you, like, fully heal up. Whereas Liturgy of the Bell, like, gradually heals you. So, like, the only time where Macrocosmos being like one big singular heal is specifically better is if you actually need to be low HP. Otherwise, Liturgy being like 5 separate relatively big heals is probably really good. It's a lot easier to use. It's also possible, because of the way Macrocosmos works, that to get maximum value out of it, it requires you to throw more fire, like you throw more tinder or kindle on the fire in the shape of other cooldowns to make sure people don't die before you send Macrocosmos. Whereas White Mage just goes plant. By the way, fun fact, I learned recently that the reason why people call it Lilybell is because when it was initially revealed, it was apparently called Lilybell. Like, actually on the tooltip or something like that. And then it became Liturgy of the Bell. I didn't see the tooltip, but that's what I was told. That is the reason why people call it Lilybell. Because 1, it's a shorter name. 2, it works. Most people know what you're talking about. And then there's the historical part. And the specific thing I looked at when I said that Lilybell was 114,000, like, granted, my White Mage gear is not the best. It's alright. But if it's not beating 100% of my maximum HP with my gear, then Macrocosmos beats it, because it has the cap of 100% of my HP. Selly, the advantage that people tend to point to on Astrologian has nothing to do with neutral sect. Astrologian has exactly 1 more percentage mitigation than White Mage. This is what people tend to point to when they complain about Astrologian having an advantage. You might be thinking, a 10% mitigation for 5 seconds on a 1-minute cooldown is the problem. Yes. It's a pretty huge advantage to have that. when the other does not have that. The people that know what they're talking about. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, let's focus on that. A lot of the people that don't know what they're talking about will just say Astrologian is better because someone said that Astrologian is better. Venick says, is there content where massive sustainable heals are useful? Exactly. But Venick, you did say highest heals per minute. So, we answered your question. Welcome to Caetsu Chaiji's channel, where sometimes we will approach a question and ignore the fact that the information is actually useless. For the most part, no. It's not. The greatest advantage White Mage has in most content is that among all 4 healers, White Mage actually has the most MP control, which is then of course the follow-up question is what MP control, like MP management? Yes. Does that matter? In most content, no. But if things go sideways, nice, Aerodel. If you enjoy uselessness, remember to leave a like and subscribe. Nice. But yeah, on the topic of that, White Mage has thin air, and White Mage's Lilies and the Flatus Misery represent a huge amount of saved MP, which means that even without thin air, just without it, just Ezai's and the saved MP from the Lilies that they have, White Mage already beats all 3 other healers on MP management. Granted, White Mage has the capacity to spend more MP than the other 3, and notably both Astrologian and Sage, I believe, have particularly cheap healing spells, which compensate in a different way. But when you actually need thin air can make White Mage, by a technicality, have like 2 or 3 times as much MP to work with. Well, at least 2 times as much MP to work with as the other healers per minute, because of thin air making rest free. So White Mage is really good if your team is really bad. Bondi, unless you have picture proof of that, I'm just saying that Macrocosmos straight up has always said amount restored cannot exceed the target's maximum HP. Unless you mean that there was an attack that actually did 10 million damage, while also setting people to 10 million HP. P3S has an insane heal increase. Fair enough. Does that work with Macrocosmos? Hey Fern, hope you're doing well. Fair enough, Bondi. No worries. The 200 potency is what got dumb. You see, that is actually something I wasn't sure about. Because technically they could have meant that the by the order in which things are listed here, the 200 cure potency could have also been under the same limitation. Like, technically it could, and I don't know if it does, and I can't be bothered to test it right now. Well, fair enough, Sally. In that case, I'll take your word for it, Bundy. Although 10 million sounds a little bit too insane. Maybe? But yeah, the time where, to Venix's question, where a lot of sustained healing would be helpful, I think the time where that would be most likely to be helpful would be one expansion old, unsynced content where your team is bad. However, a substantial amount of one expansion old unsynced content nowadays is difficult enough that it doesn't really matter. Like, a white mage being able to, like, soldier through and just spam heal like a lunatic and, like, send out a raise for free every minute, or like every 40 seconds even, for a while, doesn't really help if the incoming mechanic is a body check and it actually wipes you if someone is missing. So I would say the thing where white mage really wins is that there's a lot less to think about when you want to use some cooldowns on white mage as opposed to Astrologian. Someone mentioned that anything white mage can do in 1, Astrologian can do in 2. And like, that's part memey, but it's not entirely false. Both Sage and Astrologian feel like the Dark Knight equivalent of healers, where like the other tanks just go like short cooldown defensive. Dark Knight is like TPN and Oblation. It just as a like very basic example, like Sage and Astrologian are the ones that like piece together a Frankenstein of cooldowns, whereas White Mage and Scholar just go boom. Although technically Scholar does use like recitation and then an adloquium and then a deployment tactic, but you get the idea. And that's also true Raging Bull. Fern, we actually finished. We finished all of the daily roulettes we aimed to do, and then we did the normal raid re-clears. So we finished. Early as well. Which is why we're just hanging out. But yeah, when it is phases of intense healing, it's like really, it comes down to like how much healing is needed. But in the case of Scholar, it's more like, with Sage, incoming damage, then you're like, okay, I'll use this and this. I'll use this and this. I'll use these two things. Whereas Scholar, it's like, a lot of the time, you just click one thing. But, quote-unquote, one thing is sometimes the specific combo of recitation at low-quim deployment tactics. Like, the logic being that most of the time, that is basically one move. Like, Sage can just go, well, for this particular mechanic, I need a different combination. Whereas with Scholar, it would really come down to, like, if you really need Indomitability instead. But otherwise, it's usually Adlo, right? So, like, it's like specific combos in the Scholar toolkit, where Sage is like, I have all of these Lego bricks. Which ones do I piece together? But yeah, amazingly, we got through all of the roulettes with like 20 minutes to spare. I believe the reason why is because most of the times when I've done these daily streams in the past, I keep getting like caught up in some topic to discuss, and then like there's like 10 minutes plus between each duty, and then it's quickly adds up to then be, oh yeah, we haven't finished and it's 9. It's 8 now for me. Exactly, Mr. Bright. Hey, Shackman. Hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying Ninja. It sounds like you are. You did your daily mental roulette though, right? No. I don't do all of the dailies on Dailies Hangout. And I do my mental roulette specifically in the context of a set for the videos. Final Fantasy 14 game theorists. Well, I mean, this is the home of Final Fantasy 14 Mythbusters, right? I'm looking for a picture. It was made by me, who else? What was the last raid you were in? The last boss we did was M8N. Howling Blade. Which is the final boss of the current raid tier. But yeah, we did the thing, we did the dailies, we had a talk, we answered some questions. I think this is a good time to wrap up the stream. So, if you enjoyed this particular stream, it helps me a lot if you leave a like on it here on YouTube. That tells the algorithm this was an enjoyable stream. I'd like other people to enjoy it as well, so thank you so much in advance. And if you'd like to be part of the Discord community server, there's a link in the chat right there. There you will find the weekly schedule where you can see what else is coming up in the coming days. So you're usually updated Sunday and Monday, so I'll probably update it right after this stream, in fact. You'll also find the announcement room with links to videos and streams when I put them out. And if you grab the reminder roll in the role assignments room, you'll get a notification whenever I post a video or stream, as well as an extra one around 15 minutes before stream starts, so you can catch it right when we go live. And if you'd like to support the channel even more directly, you can become a member of the channel, you can gift memberships, you can use the super chat system, or if you don't like any of that, there's the Ko-Fi link that Aridel posted there in the chat. It's also in the description. It all helps support me in the channel directly, so I can focus on doing stuff like this with all of you. So thank you so much for the support. But that'll be it from me tonight. So good night, good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world, and I hope to see you all very soon. Bye bye.